TK, TacoYaki, TK is Shade from TacoYaki Anime.
This is starting off wonderfully already.
Yeah. And we're back for another episode of Mostly Ketchup. We will be talking about the fall anime of 2021, our final thoughts on the season. But first, let's get our semi-annual Funimation rant out of the way.
What about Funimation do we want to talk about this time?
I wanted to watch Madoka-chan finish that show, but the subtitles don't work on Roku TV. They start at the beginning of the episode, and then as soon as the intro kicks in, they stop working. So I was like, oh, maybe it's episode 2. Maybe I'll just skip episode 2. And I went to episode 3, still the same thing. And I'm like, I'm not skipping 2 episodes. So I was like, you know what? Maybe if I don't skip the intro and like maybe it's a timing thing, like if you seek through the episode, it messes up the subtitles. So I was like, you know what? Let's start the whole episode over and just wait. And then the intro ends and then they start talking and no subtitles. And me, I'm like, after listening to Japanese in anime for 20 years almost, I was like, I actually get what they're talking about. I'm like, I know some of these words. And
Some.
Yeah. And then I'm like halfway through the episode and I'm like, you know what? With context clues and a lot of familiar words that I've heard, I think I might just finish this episode. And I get through and I'm like, I think I know what's happening. And then the next episode starts. And I'm like, wow, I got through that whole episode and I have a vague idea of what happened in that episode. And then the third episode plays and I was like, And then like, I think the girl shows up and she starts talking. And I'm like, I've been wanting to see her this whole season. And now I don't know what's going on. So I gave up. Funimation, please fix your Roku app. It's broken again. So we have 7 shows to talk about today. I have 2.
I know I'm bulking on that one, huh?
Yeah,
I think that's our typical is, you do the bulk in the beginning and I do the bulk at the end.
Yeah, it's usually like we have about 30 at the beginning and then we have about like 12, 15 or something like that in the middle and then 6 at the end. So, all right. And the first show we're going to be talking about today is Madoka-chan.
The one that you weren't able to watch.
Yes.
Which is a shame because it was, well, okay, so let me preface by saying that I have only watched, I'm up to episode 9.
Are they going to continue through another season?
I don't necessarily know. I almost hope so because it's gotten really interesting at this point.
Okay.
To my perspective. How to like. So I remember saying before when we watched the first initial episodes of this and we're discussing it that it seemed like for the most part it was going to be a discussion about how she basically couldn't, like, she sees these creatures and it's going to be a matter of how long is it going to be before something comes up where she can't, because she's always basically saying, "Oh, I can't see him, I can't see him, I can't see him," even though she can see them. Situation.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a matter of just like how long is it until her ruse and her little ploy of being like, "I can't see them," is no more. Like she can't keep it up forever. Situation.
Hmm.
And it seems like, okay, so another, I knew she was going to be involved in some way, shape, or form, but there's this blonde-haired chick, um, blonde hair with red tips or whatever, who comes in, and
The girl that I want to see.
I I want to smack her upside the head so bad. I really
Hey,
do. I really do. I want to smack her upside the head so bad.
why are you so mean?
She oh my god. Okay. Just to give a little bit of backstory on her, all right? She can see, like, I knew it was a case. Like, I had this sinking suspicion. I'm like, okay, she can also see them. Yes, she can see them, but she only sees the little ones.
Oh,
She only sees, like, she'll see, like, the human sized ones and the tiny ones. She doesn't see the gargantuan sized ones. Freaking
uh,
huge ass ones that Mirako-chan sees.
uh,
And then at one point, she, I guess, went to this, I guess, Cirrus or whatever, the old lady who gives out, usually she gives out fake fortunes to the high schoolers who want to, oh, I'm gonna fall in love or whatever situation. But
yeah,
it,
the
she
common just making money kind of stuff.
Yeah, but she does have some power to her, and if she sees someone who is in need or has need of something, she does try to help in some way, shape, or form. So she is kind of redeemable in that regards.
Yes.
Well, the girl you like, I can't remember her freaking name right now.
I don't know her name either.
She basically kind of thinks of herself as the disciple of this godmother. She calls her like granny godmother or whatever, something like that. And but here's the thing. It's not so much that she feels like Mediko-chan is. She basically looks at Mediko-chan as a rival. She thinks that Mediko-chan has powers, and thinks that Mediko-chan thinks less of her, that she's not as powerful or whatever.
Okay.
So there was one episode that I was just sitting there, I'm like screaming internally the entire freaking time, because she's so obsessed with trying to convince Medico-chan that she also has power, and convince her that, they should be on the same playing field essentially or whatever. Medico-chan just wants to fucking have nothing to do with any of this shit. She just wants to be
Yeah.
left alone with all of this stuff. Well, her other friend, the orange-haired girl, um, takes a picture at some point, and she thinks of herself now as she has that stereotypical thing where it's like, oh, I'm a photographer. I have an eye for detail. I see everything so wonderfully and beautifully. Well, the blonde-haired chick decides to take advantage of that and bolster her up and go, "You do have a wonderful look. Oh my God, that looks so
Steven, did you know
wonderful."
TurboTax
And
is
she's like, "You
free
know
no matter
what?
how you want to file?
I know the perfect spot for you to get such a beautiful, beautiful scenic view. Hardly anybody ever goes there. You're going to be like one of the first people to really capture its full potential, its full beauty." And she is just eating it up. So the very next day they have off, they go to this spot, or they start going to this spot, and apparently they have to go through this tunnel in order to get to this spot. Well, this tunnel is haunted. It's a known haunted place for the locals. Medica-chan doesn't know about it until she starts walking towards it, and then starts one of those moments of, oh. And there's the little guys that are probably like the size of like cats or whatever, there's a few human-sized ones that the blonde-haired chick sees, but Megatron's sitting there going, okay, we need to get out of here before something worse shows up. And all of a sudden, like, this, like, spectral chain comes slashing out of nowhere, and then she just kind of looks and goes, oh, something worse just showed up. And it's like this freaking multi-handed legged, multi-headed. It's got like a huge barrel covering it. So it almost looks like a crab, but like humanoid almost situation. And this entire time, the freaking blonde-haired chick, like, Megatron trips, or she gets a rock in her shoe, like right before this. So she bends down, takes the rock out of her shoe and throws it, and she thinks, oh, she's casting something.
Oh no.
And then she trips, puts her hands to the ground to catch herself, but it was kind of like a weird catch that she got herself in. And she's like, oh, she's casting a protection spell. Oh my
Oh
God.
my god.
And she did it so quickly. Oh my God. And then the freaking monster starts taking out all the other ones around. But she doesn't see the big one. She only sees the one taken out. So she's trying to get her friend to avoid these because her friend can't see them. The orange hair, she can't see anything. So she's like, I'm gonna try to like, because at one point in another episode, she told her she was about to bump into one of them. Oh, there's a cockroach, and of course she jumped back and out of the way and avoided hitting one of these like monsters. So she's like, "Oh, I'll do the same thing. I'll try to like have her avoid it by calling things out that that she won't think or see, and she'll be like surprised and jump away from it or whatever." So she says spider, and this thing whips out with its change and starts just like constricting all of the freaking other little entities around it, and the freaking girl thinks, oh, she cast a spell with one word, said spider, and is now tearing all of them apart. I'm like, oh my God, why? Stop it. Stop it. Just stop it. And at the end of it, they finally freaking leave, and she still is just absolutely convinced that Megatron has powers and wants her to think of her on the same. I'm like, oh my God, this never got resolved. It's gonna freaking happen again. And oh Jesus. Oh, so yeah, it's crazy. Um, there's a lot of cool moments. I really want you to watch it, so I don't want to try to spoil any huge amounts of things for you on it.
Yeah, I'll have to go ahead and watch it on PC since apparently that part of that part of the service works on that
Yeah,
show. I was able to watch other stuff, just not that one show.
yeah. So I really want to watch. I really want you to watch it. I'm not going to really go into details about other things. It was just you mentioning that character just spurred that in me, and I'm like, oh my God. I literally just watched that last night, and I just sitting here going, oh my God, I just want to just smack her upside the head and go, stop it. Leave her alone. You're making her life harder. So, yeah, no, it's. I wasn't sure what direction they were going to go in with her and this whole, because at the beginning it was just her avoiding ghosts and pretending they don't exist, so that way whenever they come to her and like look at her and be like get up in her face and be like, "Can you see me? Can you?" She's just like trying her hardest to act like they don't exist or aren't there or whatever, even though she sees them plain as day.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily sure where they were going to go with that, but I do see at least another story thread developing, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Okay.
I'll just leave that at that, because you'll come across it when you watch it. I'm sure. I think it was like episode 6 or 7. think 7.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, no, good stuff. Anyone out there who wants to watch an anime that is, I will say it has horror elements to it, because goddamn, can some of those
Yeah.
monsters be absolutely horror.
Uh,
And I know you've seen, because you at least saw them for the first like 2 or 3 episodes, right? Or at least the first episode or 2. So at least you saw what they look like. There's one that they're going to encounter, I think by episode, I think either episode 6 or 7. That looks is worse than all of the rest of them so far. That is just like, oh my god, that is straight out of somebody's like demented nightmares or some shit. Because that just looks horrifying. So, yeah, good stuff. Definitely, it's as even though it does have horror elements into it, I would say it is more of a character story.
mhm.
And it's kind of a slice of life, because it's just trying to show her day-to-day life on how she's surviving with the fact that she can see these things all around her, all over the time, and
Yes.
how she's trying to deal with trying to be a normal high school student and still have these issues that she has. Um, and then there's some little quandaries that she has too, because for the most part, yes, there's a lot of horrific ones that she comes across, but there are some that aren't as horrific, and ones that she thinks of as more helpful.
Mhm.
So she kind of has to think about, as far as like weighing her options on, does she continue to ignore all of them and just make that as a permanent stance on everything, or does she actually see it, depending upon how things play out, continue to actually, or can she interact with some of them to some extent?
Okay.
But it's like, once that cat's out of the bag, does, like, all of a sudden, even though you only interacted with one of them, does all of them now all of a sudden know that you can actually see them situation? So
Yeah.
it's a hard line to walk, especially when you don't know for sure to what extent it's being said or played, kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I don't envy her even a little bit.
No.
I honestly, I give her all the props in the world for being able to see the absolute just horribleness that she does, and not absolutely lose her shit all the damn time. I
It
would I would be a mess. I would be an absolute mess.
it takes I see dead people to the highest level
Oh
possible.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, because in that situation, like, yes, he did see horrible things, and very scary things at the same time, but it's one of those where eventually he learned to overcome by actually reaching out to them. But in the situations that she comes across, I'm not sure there's a good way for that to be.
Yeah.
Because some of them I'm looking at and I'm like, there was one she came across. I'm like, because I kept thinking about it, like, after she kind of had that revelation of like, oh, maybe I can actually interact with them, or see what I can do with them, or help them, or see if they'll help me, or yada yada yada. I would kind of like gauge on which ones that she came across afterwards to see, and one of them I'm like, oh hell no, that's a straight up freaking axe murder. No, no, that's not a good one. I can tell you that right now. You try to interact with that one's going to mess you up. So
Yeah. Well, we will revisit. I would say that we will revisit this one and put it at the end of the next episode, because
yeah,
yeah,
I
I really wanted to get to this one.
I really want to talk with you about this one too. So
Good, good, good. All right. The next episode we're going to talk about is our next show we're going to talk about is Demon Slayer Season 2 arc, the train arc, and the entertainment arc.
season 2 that actually became season 2. I honestly, I'm still pissed off about that. Because it's like,
It
I
makes me
really
not want to watch certain movies.
I really feel like, because okay, so have you caught up with it completely, as far as at least up to, I think today was a new episode came out or whatever, but
Two people split, or one person split in two.
okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I made this comment too, is because someone on Twitter made a comment about how they absolutely love Demon Slayer, and I said, look, it's great. I totally agree. I love Demon Slayer. My problem is that the very beginning of this actual season, it took a while to get there. Like, we had to kind of ramp it up. Like, it kind of had an idle moment for a little while before it started that climb, and then we're like, okay, now we're up here. Now we're at altitude. Now we're rolling with it. We're getting things going. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand that you cannot just have just an in your face moments nonstop all the damn time. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to have some sort of character development and stuff like that. But two things. One, season one of Demon Slayer set a precedence. Because if you look at those episodes and you think back about each of those episodes, it was pretty much a nonstop from start to finish. Like, they had little moments in episodes that were like character driven and development stuff like that, but it wasn't like full on like 4 or 5 episodes going through before we finally got to something going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then two, if I'm to take it as the train arc, as because they put it there, they put it at the start of the season as part of the part of the season, right? If I'm taking it as that's the case, we had just an absolute full on crazy moment just out of nowhere. And then we went really slow. Like, we hit that hill, we went up it, we went down, and then we're like, all right, now we're just gonna coast along here for a little while. And I'm like, how do you do that? No, that's, oh my god, no. You can't just, because they had an opportune moment to show them the three main characters that we always follow along with, show them in heightened moments and doing stuff, because they did their own missions for a little while. But they kind of glossed over that, and I'm not sure if that was just the anime that did that, or if it was part of the manga that's the reason they did that. I don't know. But I will say, it just felt like we had this intensity and this like full on, like, just brutal moments going on here, and then we just went, and then anytime any of those moments could have come up, we're like, no, but that's, we're not focused on that. We're focused on the character stuff right now, so just screw all that stuff. You know what I mean? I was just like,
Yeah.
I seemed a little bit out of, just, you kind of, you did a 360 on me, and I'm not like, I'm well 180, and then just, I kept spinning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like season two is like, I don't know, like two slingshots. It's like you said, they're holding it back, holding it back, holding it back, and then like ramp up, and then that's over. And then holding it back, and holding it back, and holding it back, and ramp up, and then it's gonna be over again.
If they completely got rid of the train arc as part of the season, keep the train arc as the movie, because you really didn't add anything to it in the season from
Mm,
what I saw. So if
mm.
that's the case, keep the train arc as the movie, and then have this be the second season. Like, when you
Which
have it,
technically it is. It's just they didn't
it
need to.
is.
They didn't need to double dip.
No, they didn't need a double dip. And to me, it's like, because they did that, honestly, that would have been the best way. Not like, somebody think of like, oh, just don't do the movie and put it, just keep it in the actual series. I'm like, no. Don't put it in the series. Keep it as its own separate movie, because it kind of was its own separate thing. And then you mentally have that division, because you're like, season one, stop, divide. Movie, stop, divide. Season two, stop. You know, it's like, now you can be like, the pacing doesn't seem to throw you off at all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just like, oh, we're in a new part, we're in a new area. This makes sense. Now I can take that climb and be like, all right, breather, tensity's building, we're getting there, and now we're gonna get there. Not freaking bonkers freaking fighting happening at this goddamn train situation thing. And then we go, all right, now we have the recovery from that. And I'm like,
If you wanted to do that, have like a small little recap. Be like,
exactly.
remember that mission that we went on,
Yeah.
or remember the fire, Hasha.
It's not like
Because
it's not like that wasn't part of it though, because at the beginning of the actual series, after that happened, he still visited the father
yeah,
and
because the
family.
father is gonna
So
play another part.
that, well, yeah, but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, you visited, like, that in itself could be the recap right there.
Yeah.
There's no issue. Like, if you wanted to, you could have easily given a brief recap during their discussion when he was talking to the brother,
Yeah,
and
because
it'd been fine.
there's like, what happened, and he's like, okay, thank you for telling me. You're like, yeah, just fit it right in between those two sentences.
Fit it right in between there, and then just completely cut out the train arc from the series.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd be totally fine with that. But because you made it part of the actual series itself, it almost just it red flags it in my mind. So, getting that out of the way, all in all, god damn, that was some amazing stuff that happened on that train.
Yes.
Like, train battle was just intense as hell. And like, I thought, like, having to deal with that one, because he was originally of the lower ranks. I'm not sure if he moved up at all, but when Muzan gave him more of his blood or whatever, but at the same time, like, I thought he was going to be the penultimate, like, this is who we have to finish off or
Yeah.
get rid of or whatever. And then I'm sitting here after the train wrecks and everyone's gathering themselves up, and I'm like, oh, all right, well, yeah, the job's done. That's freaking awesome. And next thing I know, the freaking flame hosher is like getting all tense, and I'm like, oh wait, what's going on? And then one of the upper ranks gets out, and I'm like, that's a little more intense now.
Yeah.
God,
Um,
and just Tanjiro's reaction after that upper started running away.
yes. So
Just,
I'm
just the emotion behind that. I feel so sorry for the voice actor who has to come behind and try to dub that,
yeah.
because the raw anger and the emotion that I felt in that Japanese voice actor, whoever was doing Tanjiro, the way they delivered those lines. I mean, even when I'm having to read them and everything to see what he's saying, I'm still just sitting here going, I got chills. I'm just like, God damn, you can tell he is just pissed.
Yeah.
And it's
And
like,
even threw and lost his sword in the process.
yeah, it lost his soul, but he, like, it wasn't even a thought process in his mind. He just
Yeah.
immediately went for it. And I'm just sitting here going, damn, Tanjiro, you just got that sword. But honestly, it was a perfect moment. Like, I wouldn't trade that moment for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to take it from the swordsmith later on, but still,
Yeah. Because it's like in the moment, he's like, get back here. And he throws it. And the dude, he's like just screaming at him. And the demon's like, looks back like he might turn around and come back. And I'm like, kind of don't, but you chicken. and
yeah,
then
yeah,
and then the sword hits him. And I'm like, oh, yes, that's
yeah,
what you get. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, hyper excited. And then we get back to the sword guy. And I'm like, but he needed to throw it. Like you should have been there. You would have agreed because he had to. Like it was dire. Like
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just sitting here just going, and okay, you know me, I love when characters just go off. Like when they just they forget about everything else and our sole focus is just the defeat of the enemy in front of them and whatnot. And I know we're getting a little away from that, but this is why you reminded me of that, just Tanjiro's moments or whatever. Him with the fight with the girl when he switched to
oh yes.
flame breath, and I'm just sitting here going, "Oh, Tanjiro! Damn, man! I got chills all over again because I'm just sitting there going, you baller fucking boss, man! That is intense." And then I'm like, and then the fact that his brother had to come in and go, breathe, breathe.
yes.
You have to breathe. And then I'm like sitting here, and then he finally does. I'm like, oh, that's how he was. Oh, okay. You really were going all out in that, weren't you? I could say for definitively right now, like there are a few characters that I've come across in anime who like the word selfless, like is like a pinnacle, like defining characteristic of them and everything. And to me, I think Tanjiro just kind of just portrays that as well. Like if you were to put him in like not necessarily power level wise, but at least as far as character wise, like in sort of like the same pantheon as like Goku and stuff like that, like he Tanjiro will take resentment and ridiculeness for himself. Like he is the one person that I'm sure we all know in our lives who will be the hardest on themselves, will beat themselves up. But the second they see somebody else being either ridiculed, hurt, abused in any sort of way, they just freaking go off. Like, and I can say that same moment when in comparison, like I'm almost in my mind comparing like Goku when he first went Super Saiyan after seeing Krillin get killed versus Tanjiro when that lady just freaking went all out and started killing all the innocent people around,
Yeah.
and he just snapped. I'm like that.
I still blame that one guy though.
That was his Super Saiyan moment. That was his like. We got to peek at if like, dude, if you can manage to control this, if you can actually get some sort of training to get you able to handle this, you would probably be somewhere at least on par with Muzan. Like you can see the potential. Like I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more training and more things he has to learn to be able to get there, but the potential's there.
Yeah, because you can see that he was attempting it, and he's
Yeah,
like he knows that he can't. He only can go so far
yeah.
because he would like try it a little bit, and he's like, yeah, I only can do like two moves or whatever he said, and he's like, I need to build up my stamina, and then like he was just forced to go all in. So
Well, and he was saying too is that he wasn't like the father of the Flame Hashira. No, like recognized him based upon the mark on his head, but
yes.
he said that mark wasn't there by birth.
Hmm.
That mark he got protecting his brother from like a pushed over boiling pot of water
Yeah.
or whatever, and it burned him or whatever. And then it further got indented or I guess made that way because of his in order to become a demon slayer, that training he went into, I guess he got hit there as well.
Hmm.
So I'm like, in his mind, he's like, even though he's been able to do this, even though his father obviously held
Wait,
that power and ability,
wait
he's
a minute.
telling him, hmm,
Um, the father recognized his earrings.
well, he first looked at his earrings, but he made mention of the scar on his head.
Okay, because I know In my head,
No,
what
he
sticks out is
he
the
did he
father
did
did the
look
earring,
did look at the earrings, but
and I thought somebody
his
else mentioned the scar.
no, I'm pretty sure because the brother didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
The brother had no clue about it. The only reason why he continued with it was because I think the earrings were the first clue, and then the head scar was the second clue. Because if
Okay.
you look at the father and from the past, he had that same similar like marking on his forehead.
Okay.
So, and then even Tanjiro was saying he's like that mark wasn't I wasn't born with that mark.
Yeah.
It's just something that happened to me.
Yeah.
So in his mind, he's like, I'm not it. I'm not the being of powerful enough to be able to control this. Like again, going back to this whole like self-depreciation thing, like he doesn't hold that as truthful. He'll still train and he'll still push himself to the limits and trying to do everything he possibly can. He just doesn't think of himself as being capable of doing it.
Yeah. And one thing that might be kind of interesting is like that scar might actually be there. He just happens to already have a scar there.
Hmm.
So if that mark does appear, you won't really notice it because he already has a scar there.
Well, yeah, because the other thing is too is maybe that mark doesn't actually appear until after you first use the sun breath or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe then that's when it's supposed to first appear, but he already had a scar there to begin with,
Yeah.
so it's not gonna have any issue with that. So, um, and then I guess we can't not say about his sister.
Oh man, I'm worried.
Uh,
when she went berserk, I was like, she's had enough.
yeah,
Stop.
yeah, yep. I'm like, again, a character going berserk. I'm sitting here going, oh, freaking awesome. Yes, absolutely. Beat the ever living snot out of, yeah, absolutely. And then the whole thing with the fact that someone got cut, and then I'm like, oh no.
For a second, I forgot why she had the bamboo, and then after she bit it in half and then saw that scar thing, I was like, "Go get the bamboo! You need
Yeah.
that back."
So that is definitely, but I mean, come on, let's be serious here. We all kind of knew even from the get go that there was going to come a time when that was probably going to happen. I mean, we all knew it wasn't a huge surprise. It's just, I think it's a surprise that they even teased it this early on. I think is the biggest thing. So, I mean, but I mean, we all understood. It's understood. That's a thing. It's gonna happen. Um,
One thing always kind of like makes me laugh a little bit is like Nezuko's like whenever she like hulks out, she gets these like meaty man legs. Like whenever she walks around, I'm like, it doesn't match.
well, I mean, to be fair though, she like her legs are like her choice of weapons, I guess, more or
Yeah,
less,
yeah,
because you notice every single time one of her first moves is always coming off is trying to kick him.
yeah,
But again, to be fair, every time she's done that, she's usually kicked him pretty good, either kicking
yeah.
their head off or because I saw that happen when all of us like usually we both everyone saw that happen when she did that whole for the freaking girl with the scarf or whatever or the shawl or whatever when
Mm.
she's about to kill Tanjiro. Next thing you know, here comes Nezuko. Boom! And I'm like, oh, there went the head. All right. So
Yeah.
no, it's concerning. I think it's they did it in such a good way that I think even though it's become a meme as it were of like protect Nezuko or whatever, like you can't help but feel that way about her. You're just like you want to feel so protective over her. So the fact that she gets in those situations and gets to be that way, you're just like, oh, Nezuko, no. No,
Yeah.
no. Go get in your back. Go get back in your box. Get back in your. You're fine. No, it's fine. Don't worry about Nezuko. Just go back in your box. It doesn't help that she also can change her size to where like she looks like a kid essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because after she fell asleep, after he lulled her to sleep, she turned back into her small form, and I'm like, oh, Nezuko, you have been so beautiful. Oh, go sleep in your box. You're fine. So
Yeah. Um, up until the demon split, I was a little like disappointed, I guess, with how the fight was going because uh, the new Hashira showed up so quickly and like supposedly ended it, and then I'm like,
I the very second like that her head fell off and that she's still talking, and I'm looking at it going, your head's off. Not only is your head off, but you didn't do anything. Like it was obvious that the Hashira is the one who took your head off.
yeah, like as soon as he,
How are you still alive right now?
yeah, it's like as soon as he as soon as he blasted past her and started talking to Tanjiro, and then she started complaining. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he took you out, but I don't exactly know why. And then her like head fell on her lap, and I'm like, yeah. And then she started talking, and I'm like, huh.
Yeah,
I'm like, something's up.
we've seen too many times when someone takes a demon's head, they don't survive very quickly after that. Like
Yeah.
they start disappearing pretty quickly on. So I'm just sitting there going, how are you still alive? What the frick happened here to make this happen? Because this is going against everything we've already been shown and told up to this point.
Yep. Hey, you're
So
breaking the rules. What's
yeah,
up?
it's like, wait, no. If we're gonna have a rule breaker, it's gotta be like further on down the line, not like at
Yeah.
this point here. You're one of the lower upper. I mean, I get it, you're still an upper, but you're one of the lower upper. How does that freaking work out?
Yeah.
Um,
Because
I guess.
even Nezuko technically was breaking the rules too. And
Mhm.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, she's obviously a special case
Yeah.
because even Muzan said that she's not under his control.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, so I'm like, things started going awry. I'm
Mhm.
like, it's like, oh, Nezuko's head came off. We're like, oh, but she can coagulate her blood. I'm like, really? I'm like, that's how you gonna solve that?
Well, but here's the thing, though, is that Nezuko having her head come
Oh, she has
off,
blood powers too. So
she does have blood powers, but at the same time, we all know that the only like demons can cut each other's heads off, and it doesn't matter.
okay.
It's a demon slayer using that specific sword that they have because of what it's made from is the reason why demons will get killed.
Okay.
Because remember the kid in the forest that used those wires, the spider silk thread or whatever, like he cut his little sister in like little chunks, and she just came back and picked up her head and was like, "Okay, I'll go do what you tell me to go do now." It's like
I
you
need to
were
watch the
in
first season again.
pieces. You were in freaking pieces. How? But yeah, that's the reason why. Is demons can you can mincemeat them, you can cut them up and all sorts of things. The only two things that are going to kill a demon are either going to be a demon slayer sword or sunlight. That's it.
Okay. So yeah,
So
I don't
then,
know. Things have been just like not going according to uh, like knowledge that we had before. I'm like,
well, but we are dealing with the upper hashira or the upper tiers of the demons at this point. So then
yeah,
the next question is, since this is an upper tier and it is two of them essentially formed from one.
because it's 12, right? It's upper six and lower six.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's 12 altogether, upper six, lower six. She and he, I guess, are the part of the lower six or the lower end of the upper six.
yeah.
So considering the Flame Hashira,
Was it 3? Was 3 the guy on the train?
3 was the guy on the train. So we haven't seen 2 and 1 yet. We haven't seen 2, 1, 4, and I guess depending upon whether or not she counts as 1 or 2, because it might be a case of like she's 6, but that's part of her is 5.
Yeah.
But if they just count as 1 and she's 6, then we haven't seen 5 yet either.
Okay.
But that's
Muzan doesn't count as number 1, right? It's
no.
Muzan and then 1 through 6.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Muzan is his own. He doesn't even qualify for any of those as far as that goes because he's just the pinnacle.
Also, Muzan, he can shapeshift, right?
Yep.
He's that kid and he's his adult form.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the first season, he actually, because of the fact that they knew what he looked like in his adult form, he took on the form of a lady when he met up with the lower 6.
And then
it
he's
wasn't
also taking that spot as the kid.
Yep.
Which all the parents are like, oh my god, he's so smart and so like unusual.
Well,
and I'm like, because he's a demon. Like I didn't even know it was something.
He's like so smart, so well behaved, and then they're like, the only problem is he can't go out during the day, and I'm like, because he's a demon.
Yeah.
And then I see him, and I'm like, oh, he's Muzan.
Yeah, I was yelling, he's a demon for like every single sentence. I'm like, because he's a demon, because he's a demon, and then they showed him like, oh, because he's Muzan.
Yeah. So then here's the other question: since we had the Flame Hashira face the 3rd tier, and now this is the 6th tier from the upper, do we think that there is going to be another death from a Hashira? Is the sound Hashira going to survive? Because right now,
I hope he does, because then that'll just set like a pattern of like every Hashira that's with them, they just happen to come across and like just lose them.
Because right now, well, I mean, the odds are a little stacked against him, because she's two beings or technically 2 beings, but one or I guess they're linked together, I guess, in such a way. But obviously, you can't just kill her to kill him. It seems like you have to kill both of them probably at the same time in order for them to actually die.
Which is cool, because I'm wondering how they're actually going to do it.
But that's the thing. I mean, he's already kind of gone up against the guy right from the get-go. Like, he had no problem with the girl. But obviously, he's having way more difficulty with the guy, the brother.
Yeah.
And right now, Tanjiro's not looking too good. He's already been pushed to his. He's already been.
He's already flamed out.
Yeah, so he's already been pushed to his limits. Nezuko is obviously out of the question at this point. She needs to rest and whatnot. So the only backup he currently has is potentially, if they decide to join in, his wives, if they're going to be any use. But they've already said they're on the lower tier as far as that goes. So they don't even qualify for like being able to handle even the low level, stuff, let alone someone high level like this.
Yeah.
They're more the information gatherers behind the scenes to try to figure out where these demons are located at, and then they're supposed to sneak out quietly in order to inform some of the upper echelon of like, oh, we found a big one for you, come and get them kind of situation.
Yeah.
So
and like also like help people get to safety.
Yeah, so the only other demon slayers that are technically there is his 2 friends.
Yeah, which I wanted to, I thought of it earlier to mention, but now I don't remember. What is, I cannot remember. The Warthog's like going all out.
What do you mean?
Like he's just strong, so I feel like he could just fight like at a high level.
He is strong, flexible. He grew up in the wild, so he had his movements are very animalistic, but he's also very fast and very strong.
Yeah, so
stronger
like,
than what normal people would be to begin with, let alone the fact that now he's also had training as a demon slayer. So
yeah,
it's
so I'm
like
like,
where he was at before, which is funny because like where he was at before, because if you think about his backstory, he took the demon slayer exam without ever having done any demon slayer training.
yeah,
He just took the exam. He found somebody who was on their way to go take the exam, beat them up, took their stuff, and went and took
that
the
sounds
exam.
like,
And then that's the thing, though. It's like afterwards, he did get training for being a demon slayer. So, like, already from the beginning, he was already powerful enough to consider to be one of the lower ranking demon slayers.
yeah,
Now he's probably improved to a point where he is probably, you know, obviously not Hashira capable, but he's probably at least to a certain extent. I think they ranked him up to like there's like 10 rankings or something like that, and they're like on 4 or something like that.
yeah, they just went up one. Um, so has he never had to go all out? Because like the yellow hair guy, he has that whole like going to sleep and being awesome thing. I can't remember what his like
The only
move.
thing I could say about the boar is that I mean he uses beast form on his movements or on everything he does.
Hmm.
But remember, he did have that moment in the forest when he was facing Spider Daddy or whatever,
Hmm.
and he almost died had it not been for Gyu coming to save him.
Okay.
So if he was going to go all out for any sort of reason, you would think that that would have been the point he might have gone all out.
Yeah, so he never like revealed his like ultra power kind of thing yet.
I don't know if he has one.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just the fact that he's just really freaking strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any sort of like definitive, like, I mean, he showed his ability for Beast to be able to, you know, pierce and like his movements are very savage. It's like
Yeah.
he pierces, he tears. You know, it's all very much animalistic in regards to his any of the Beast forms that he's shown so far.
Yeah, everything about him is rugged, even his sword. It's like
Yeah,
the guy made him his sword and he's like, all right, time to chip it all up. And you're like, kink,
yeah.
kink, kink, kink. I'm like,
Well, he
ah.
kept looking at it, going, and he's like, And then he went and kinked it up, and he's like, ah, perfect now. Now it's correct.
Yeah. Um, okay. So
Uh,
maybe this might be his like he pulls out a move kind of thing. Because it's like like whenever they come up against a new like villain, I know that Tanjiro has something up his sleeve, like he's gonna get beat down to a certain point, and then something new's coming. It's
mhm.
like with the yellow hair guy, I know that he's like gonna like go to sleep and then go all out, and then he's kind of like at his limit. Tanjiro's already done it. The yellow hair guy hasn't done it yet, so I'm like, he's gonna try that. That's may not work because it's worked before. And then I'm like, what is the boar gonna do? Because I don't know what he has up his sleeve. He's a wild card, literally. So
I think what it's going to end up having to be because of the fact that of the power it holds is I think that the two friends, two Tanjiro's friends, are going to have to go after the girl, and then the Sound Hashira is going to have to go after the brother.
okay,
But their timing is going to have to be like incredibly perfect. I feel like
okay,
because they said they consider themselves as one entity, but there's two bodies.
yeah,
So again, I think even if the Sound Hashira manages to cut off the head of the brother, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to actually kill him, unless the sister has her head cut off at the same time.
yeah. And then his sister has that robe, which like throws a kink and everything. So
Yeah, I mean the only other option they have is to stall it until daytime. That's the only other option they have.
ah, but then it can go underground, which sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we're basically right now in the middle of this battle,
Mm-hmm.
and
New
we
episode
probably
came
have
out today.
yeah, we have. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with this because this second season so far is probably going to be what 39 episodes because no like
I swear,
18.
if it's 24 episodes only because of the goddamn train arc, I'm gonna be so pissed.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like we got
Because those first 8 episodes shouldn't have existed.
yeah, it's like a core and a half.
Yeah.
So
And maybe that's the reason why they did it. They're like, oh man, we're not getting like, we want to end it here, but we only got 18 episodes, and that's going to be like an awkward situation in regards to that. It's like, oh, just take the movie and cut it up into 8 separate pieces and just sprinkle it into the first part of it. It'll be fine.
yeah. So we got like half a core of new stuff, or at least stuff that hasn't been doubled up, and then we're gonna have at least another half core of the rest of this this little half arc, like half core long arc, and then to finish out the rest of next season, we should get another. I feel like they're like these little 8 episode arcs. There's too many of them. It's like it's throwing me for a loop as far as like.
So then I think one of the other questions needs to be is I for one didn't expect the Sound Hashira to be the next person that they kind of went with as far as that goes. So, given that being the case, who do you think the next Hashira is going to be that they're going to team up with?
I don't remember all the Hashiras. I do know that the main guy, he's like, I don't have much longer left. So
there's the Snake Hashira is the one that was posed to Nezuko being left alive. And then also the one that he headbutted. I can't remember exactly which Hashira he was, but I know he was also one of the ones that opposed to it. There was the Love Hashira. There was I want to say he was like the Cloud Hashira, because he kept looking at the clouds and just staring off into distance or whatever. But even though he was out of it, he was probably like super hyper focused and everything. It was weird. There's Gyu. Oh God. I don't know. I want to say there's like 3 more Hashiras as well, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
It is interesting though, just as another side note though, when the Flame Hashira's father finally started talking or writing that letter to Tanjiro, I'm assuming, and it never came up again, at least to this point. He mentioned the fact that all forms of all these different forms of demon slaying all derive from the sun breathing technique.
Yeah.
All other techniques derive from it, are almost like they're trying to mirror copies of it.
Yeah.
That to me was interesting.
Yeah. It gives basically our main character like another path. It's like we almost had an answer with that one book that was shredded, and then it seems like there's going to be somebody else out there that like has more answers.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm curious, like because they keep going back to the father, it wasn't like a one and done kind of thing. I'm
He
wondering.
might actually know more than what he's so far let on.
Yeah, well, he was like in a like basically in like a little drunken haze all this time. So when he comes back and he gets serious, he's definitely gonna have some information on it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. This show like I'm like, who would have thought that we'd be going after the, like you said, going after the sound Hashira and him trying to recover his 3 wives that are undercover. It's like
Mhm.
I couldn't have predicted that. So I'm like,
No, no,
so I'm like,
no.
I have no idea what's gonna be happening next. But as far as like the loose ends that aren't tied up yet, it's another close call for Nezuko, and we have 2 or more Hashidas that like still disapprove of her. So we need some kind of incident for them to like finally be like, okay, we finally agree, and for Nezuko to get pushed even closer to like switching over. We still got Muzan, we still got a bunch of unknown like upper and lower demons, and then all the other Hashidas. Like, they going to play a big part? Are they going to team up and play like a minor part? I have no idea.
Can I at least say that I feel I want to give a big shout out and thank you to the creator of this for not going the stereotypical part when given the option in regards to having a main character go into the red light district where they're surrounded by beautiful women and just become like out of nowhere super hyper pervy or whatever. Can I at least give a shout out to the freaking creator for the not doing like they could have so taken the sound Hasha even with the wives that he has and still made him like super pervy and when he went to go into there, but instead he kind of like he played it up a little bit in order to get the kids into the places he needed to get them into. But after that, like he wasn't out just cruising the red light district.
Yeah, this is
He
like
was
the most
he was
tastefully.
Yeah, he was on top of roofs surveying things and listening for things and waiting for some sort of clue or something to give away to be able to know what needed to be done. Like, he didn't give a shit about the other women or anything like that. And you know as well as I do that had it been any other anime out there, you would have at least seen one scene with him in some like resort looking situation with women just surrounding him or something like that because they even mentioned that there was quite a few of those women who were willing to do that because of how good he looks or whatever, but he didn't give a
Yeah,
shit about
and they were kind of teasing Tanjiro. They're like,
yeah
"You want some candy?" um, it's weird. It's like I'd say this is maybe like the second one that's done it kind of like tastefully, because it's
yeah
like Demon. No, what it the top. There's the one with the tower, and like season 2 should have been like an OVA, with the gods, and he's like the son of Zeus.
is it wrong to pick up girls in the dungeon?
Yes. So with that one, it was like there were some parts of it that were like done like how you would assume the stereotype is, but
Mhm.
our main character was trying to save a girl in distress, and
Yeah.
he wasn't really like involved in all that. He was just surrounded by it. This show, as far as like the intro goes, because I watched the intro for this one again, it's like he is like sitting with like his with like at first he was sitting with ladies around him, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be another one of those. But it's like now that you're in the series, you're like, oh, that's his 3 wives. Yeah, of course they're gonna be all together. And you're
Hmm.
like, he's just chilling with his wives. So like take that out. And then there's like fireworks and all this kind of stuff. And it's like it's not what you expect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like how tastefully this whole district
Hmm.
has been handled.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure. Like especially with animes as of late in regards to that, like we have seen some super etchy out of nowhere situations in animes where we're just sitting here going, was that all necessary? Did we need that? Like, if you wanted to say the Sound Hashira had a hidden pervy side to him, I'd have been like, all right, well, here we go again. This is what's happening.
yeah,
But
it's like
the fact
oh,
that,
like Jiraiya had a side to
yeah,
him, Kakashi had a side to him,
hmm
Master Roshi had a side to him. There's all these
yeah,
like beloved characters that only had like a side to them.
that were like super serious in so many situations, but then had that like ultra pervy side to them where you're just sitting here going, oh God, why is it always freaking Out of nowhere, a beautiful woman comes walking through, and then whatever lesson you're just about to teach, you just goes out the freaking window.
Yeah, it's like dirty old man.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that trope kind of be put away for this. So
Yeah. Um. So, let's see. We have to probably chop off both of their heads at the same time, or get them to be stuck in the sun. Trying to get a demon to be stuck in the sun has failed with the last time, but maybe they'll actually get it to work this time.
he almost got it. To be fair, the Flame Husher
Yeah,
almost got it.
yeah,
It was the fact that he was so heretical about not having that happen to him and was willing to go through the pain. Because I'm assuming that even though they can regrow these things, it's still painful. There's still at least a
yeah,
modicum of pain that has to be involved with it.
yeah.
So,
And Nezuko like was just getting sliced
oh yeah,
like lunch meat, and like
yeah,
just regenerating immediately.
yeah, she was getting sliced up, which is why I think that she it took so long to get her to come back because it was the pain involved in all that probably was just pushed her over the edge. Like she was already pissed off by the fact that Tanjiro was about to die, and then go into that fact of the fact that then she has to go through the pain of having multiple parts of her being just cut off out of nowhere.
Yeah. I'm wondering that's why she ended up doing the coagulation thing, because she's like, I'm tired of like regrowing this stuff. She's like, let me just attach it all to so it
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, so it's like after this one battle, it's like we have a few different ways we can go. It's like um I don't think they'll do another Nezuko thing for a while. Um
But I mean, literally, I mean, we're still missing again the upper tier for the demons for number one and number two.
yeah.
So where are those going to come into play? You know, we have to at some point.
Yeah. I wonder if three's gonna come back like right away, because he's very angry.
Oh yeah,
He punched the sword to pieces.
yeah. No, he's hugely angry at the ridicule he received from Tanjiro.
Yeah. So,
Here again, though, I'm
yeah, and then the
almost
dad. Like, how quickly is the dad gonna jump into the fray?
mhm. Here again, I'm also curious about. I'm thinking, I'm thinking Tanjiro's going to need a new sword. Because remember, he was fighting the girl, and she said, "Look at your sword," and it had a whole bunch of like nicks and cuts, and like it wasn't holding up.
It's gonna be bad.
So I'm just imagining that at some point before the end of this fight, that sword's gonna break.
Oh.
It's gotta. At some point before the end of this fight, it's gonna break.
Yeah,
Because I
they wouldn't
guarantee
call it out just for some nicks.
Tanjiro is going to jump back in once he secures Nezuko and make sure that she's going to be okay. He'll jump back into the fray, even as tired and as worn out as he is, and it might just be for a simple one attack or whatever, or he might throw a fury of blows in there. But either way, I'm pretty sure he's probably going to end up breaking that blade as well,
Yeah. I'm
because
gonna
the way they set it up with the swordsmith too. Because what they're like, you have to get him. What is it? Those dumplings or whatever on the stick or whatever. Is
Oh
like
yeah,
you.
those three little yeah.
Yeah, he's like you have to. He loves them. He absolutely loves them. So like next time, bring him those, and it'll help. So I'm guaranteeing you that since they put that out there as a red herring, a red flag, they're like, yeah, his sword's gonna break again. Now you have to make him another sword because of that. So I'm just curious when he's going to be like, okay, I need to figure out something else for your goddamn swords because you keep breaking them and I'm tired of making them for you.
Yeah.
Like we're
He's like,
you're depleting our store of sun metal rather rapidly. Can you stop breaking them?
he's like, this sword is indestructible if you're good. So
Yeah,
get good.
yeah. Well, Tanjiro's already telling himself that too.
Yeah.
Because when he saw the nicks on it, he was like, "Again, I'm breaking the sword because I'm not good enough."
Yeah.
I'm thinking honestly that it's not the fact that he's not good enough. I'm thinking it's because he's been using the sun breathing, and that sword doesn't. Any sword that's made nowadays isn't good enough.
Hmm.
Like it can't withstand what that does to the sword.
Oh, because he has sun breathing in him. Because like, if it was just regular flame breathing, it'd be okay.
Well, I'm thinking because he's using sun breathing while wielding his sword, that whatever he's putting into it in order to do the things he's been doing with it is what's causing the sword itself to weaken.
Okay.
So all the other ones, as they said, all the other breathing techniques are below that, are below that. So it's like they can any of the swords that they make can withstand that sort of
So
abuse.
basically, so
So
basically, the rules that they're using for everybody is true, but because he's a descendant of the sun breathing, like that doesn't really apply to him because he's on the other side. He's like, it's not get good enough so the sword won't break. It's like you are inherently too strong.
yeah, exactly. You're inherently too strong for the swords that we make all these other people who use these other
Yeah.
techniques. So we need to make a sword that's better for you in order so that way you don't break them.
Uh,
And honestly, it may be also kind of a little bit of the fact that he needs to get good in that regards.
yeah.
Because like, if he had more control over the sun breathing, it might not weaken the sword nearly as much or as quick as it does.
Yeah. And I'm
But
like,
that he's essentially he's like Deku.
yeah, yeah,
He's
exactly.
he's pumping all that power into it all at the same time, and the sword just can't keep up with it. If he
Yes.
could refine that back a bit and be able to control it a little bit more, yes, it's still going to be damaging to the sword, but at least he wouldn't be breaking them nearly as often as he keeps doing so.
Yeah, he won't be doubling down the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just my thought on that. I mean, I could be completely off basis on that, but it feels right.
I
Because how
wonder I wonder if the
many
next arc is gonna be the dad coming back and like helping him with the sun breathing. So I'm
I don't know.
like,
Because I mean, how many swords has he broken at this point?
it's like, how many missions has he got?
Yeah, exactly. Well, he went on all those smaller missions, but every time he's come up against a Hashira or come up against one of the lower or upper demons,
Yeah.
he's broken his sword. I mean, yeah, his boarhead friend also broke his swords once,
Yeah.
but that's all the times he's ever done it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, if one of his other friends breaks their swords while doing this, I will concede and think that it's probably the fact that they need to get good in order to actually
Yeah.
not break swords. If Tanjiro, by the end of this thing, is the only one to actually break his sword again, I'm gonna be like, okay, y'all need to create a better sword that
Yeah.
is able to withstand him, because
Yeah.
obviously whatever you've done so far ain't working.
I wonder if the if his if what's his name's father has a sword for him.
Mm. You know what? Remember the first time he got his first sword? The swordsmith said that he thought it was going to be a red sword because of the fact that he saw the scar on his head
Uh,
and said that the look in his eyes made he thought of him as a sun breather. Maybe the sword has to be red in order for him to be able um to not have it break, to have it withstand it.
huh. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that scene, but I'm like, okay, if that's the
just the
case,
thought
then it's like,
that
why
was the
did he?
first time he got his sword, and we saw it change from a normal looking sword to a black sword.
Mhm.
When his swordsmith, which I don't remember his name, but it's his swordsmith because it's been the one he's always made his swords, came up to him the first time, he saw his scar and saw the look in his eyes, and he's like, "Oh, you're of like the sunbirth or something like that," is what he called him, I think,
Mhm.
or something similar. And then he was like, he was so excited because he wanted to see the sword change to red, and then got disappointed when it changed to black instead.
I need to watch the first season over again.
But
'Cause
I think the reason why it turned to black instead of potentially to red, that he needs it to turn into now at this point, is because he doesn't have full control over the sun breathing.
yeah,
Once he actually has more control, I guarantee you the next sword he gets will end up turning red instead. That seems right.
okay. Ah!
Dude, I remember I remember so much about that freaking, like, there was so many, little details during that first season that I think that they're pulling threads on and making more relevant to this season
Yeah,
and to potentially future seasons as well. I mean, it may be a case of it's like you're gonna have to like really buckle down and remember what, you know, each season holds for each ability and power that they come across.
yeah,
Because they could be giving you hints even now about what sort of things that they're going to need to do in order to actually be powerful enough to go after Muzan. God, that's going to be such a huge. That I can't wait for. That when he's finally capable and actually ends up going up against Muzan, that's going to be some. Woo!
yeah. I'm
But
like,
Muzan's not going to fight him directly. Muzan's
oh
scared of
no,
him.
oh yeah, because he fought
Muzan's
his
scared of him.
father.
I don't think that. I mean, maybe it was his father. Either it's his father or it's his like ancestor.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, I think his father looks different. Yeah, that's right.
Because I think the only reason I say that is his father did look similar to that, but when we saw him, he looked more frail. But that could just be time and
Yeah,
potentially what the flame or what the sun um, breathing effects potentially have on a person.
yeah. Because I remember when he was fighting the girl and like something like that girl had a flash, one of Muzan's flashbacks
Hmm.
of like coming across with that technique. So,
Hmm.
uh, yeah.
So
This is gonna be good.
I don't think Muzan will ever like come to him. There's gonna have to be a point where Tanjiro goes to him, and it's gonna be hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully, it is a point when Tanjiro is actually skilled enough and good enough to be able to go up against him. I'm thinking he might end up accidentally bumping into him at some point in time, but
I'm like, it's gonna be the messiest thing ever. It's like they're gonna be on their way to doing something else. Like half the storylines aren't gonna be tied up at all, and it's just gonna happen.
if it happens that way, it's not going to be the end of Muzan, and
Yeah.
something else is going to occur. Whether it's his sister is going to get captured by Muzan,
Oh. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because I'm like he's gonna have to have like some kind. He's gonna have to have like a really big hostage, and I'm like, his sister would fit that.
Do you think, and I mean, this is real speculation from this point, but do you think that at the end of this, is he going to have to kill his sister?
Because he was about to make that decision in the first season, like when everything first happened.
He couldn't do it in the first season.
Yeah. And
Like,
everybody and like two of the Hashiras are like do it, and they're like everybody else is like, nah, she's fine.
but I mean, considering what we've seen so far, do you think it's going to be a case of he's going to have to take her out before she becomes she? Because at this point, I mean, if she actually
Oh,
if she actually became full demon, I guarantee you she would probably be considered one of the upper echelon.
Yeah, and I'm like, who else to push her over the end than Muzan? Like he keeps her, like takes her hostage and then pushes her over the edge. Okay.
And then seeing his sister essentially become full demon might push Tanjiro over the edge.
Well,
You know, I can almost see it playing out. I can almost see it playing out in my mind. She goes full demon. Tanjiro gets pissed off, goes after Muzan, and then Muzan thinks he has it won essentially against Tanjiro because, you know, his sister's this way or whatever. And in the end, it's a sacrifice from Nezuko as the last vestiges of her humanity cause her to like do something that gives the disadvantage to Muzan, that Tanjiro is able to take his head. I can see it. It's possibility. It's possibility, man. This is coming from somebody who has never seen any of the manga, who just knows storytelling and has seen enough anime to kind of gauge where certain things go. And considering how this whole thing started and the fact that he lost his entire family
yeah,
in order to start this journey. So we started the series on a sad note
yeah,
because he lost his entire family, his sister became part demon, and he had nowhere else to go.
yeah. And we kind of started season 2 on the same note with that dream that everybody got into.
So to
You
me,
open
I'm
that wound.
I'm thinking that that's kind of how the season's going to end. Like not the season, I'm saying like the anime itself, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we'll get Muzan, we'll get
yeah.
him, but it's going to be at the cost of the fact that the person who's capable of doing it is going to lose the one thing that he was fighting for to begin with.
Yeah. This is gonna suck.
I see it happening. I don't. I would love there to be a happy ending in regards to this because of how much they've built up Nezuko and the fact of like you feel you want to protect her and you want to see her happy or whatever because Tanjiro wants to see her happy and back to normal. And they've given us hope in regards to that because we have that one doctor, demon doctor, who said that if I can get some of the top tier blood, I can potentially get a cure for her so long as she doesn't become full demon. Well, considering the setups that have been happening all throughout the series so far, and considering the way that they've forced the viewer slash, I'm sure in the manga reader, to feel all the way up to this point, it just seems the logical step that they're setting us up for some heartbreak.
Yeah, because she's getting closer to that like no return.
Mm.
All
So
right, well, David Slayer, a very, very good show. That it tripped for like 8 episodes,
it
but
did.
yeah, it's coming back. Um, I would say ignore the movie, like just watch it. So you don't have to like hop from series to the movie and back to the series. Just ignore the movie.
To me, I feel like it's worth doing that because I feel like it's a division line that needs to have a separation. Like there needs to be that separation in between the series, the movie, and the series, not just having it be series all the way through, essentially.
Okay. So then watch season 1, then watch the movie, and
And then
then
go to
start at
episode
episode 10.
9. Or is it 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then go to episode 10. Absolutely. I think that's the best way to do it. Because otherwise, it feels jarring. It feels like the pacing is just a roller coaster.
Yeah, the way that I'm watching it is like arc, then another arc, then another arc, and I'm like, please, I'm 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 getting seasick, please. So, yeah, Demon Slayer, great, excellent series. Execution's like it tripped a little, but
yeah.
Oh
yeah, for sure.
It's man.
For sure.
All right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is Childless Reincarnation Season 2.
Oh, all right.
Man,
you know what? I both love this and hate this so far.
I hated the last episode.
Yeah, I did too. This is why I said I both love this and hate this.
Man, like
I'm gonna start off on the positive, and then we'll go to the whole kind of neat a little like out of nowhere situation at the end there. But to me, the positive of this is just more and more as we're going through this, the world and everything in it is becoming more expansive and more expansive and more expansive, and it just feels amazing. Like we got that setup from the get-go about the most powerful people in this world, and then to actually come across one of them, and I'm just sitting here going,
out of nowhere.
just out of nowhere, and I'm just sitting here going, oh my god. And they gave the fact of how powerful he is such like reverence. Like it felt right. It felt justifiable.
Yeah, like
Even though it was a horrible situation
it
from start to finish, it was
completely out of the blue.
oh, it was. It was.
Like everything that happened, like how did that episode even play out? Because it's like the beginning was like, yeah, some bad stuff's about to happen, and you're like, what? And they're like, intro, da 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 da, and then it's just
Well, and the buildup was so good too, because so we've known the dude with the spear for such a long time now. Like he's become an integral part of the story and whatnot. And then to just have him as they're walking along, just kind of just minding their own business, to all of a sudden stop dead, and the look on his face, like he fears nothing.
Yeah.
He's the one who will go against unsurmountable odds because he has that much confidence in his own ability. And then to have him stop dead and the look of fear that crossed his face, I'm like, oh my god, what the hell are we about to see?
Yeah.
And then just to have two figures, like in my mind, thinking about it to him, I'm like, there's an army in front of them that is like bearing down on them, or there's like dragons that are coming down from the mountains that are about to like devour. Like he's seeing something, and then just to have two figures slowly walking up, and I'm just like, oh dear God, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
And
and that threw me off because it's like I'm like, it's either a monster, and he's like, I gotta like protect these two kids, or it's one super powerful person, and it's like two people, and I'm like, I don't know what to think. I'm like, what?
But then the other thing about that is too is that after they walk by, they're not saying anything, and the freaking animal they had with them freaks out.
Yeah.
And launches itself over the cliff.
He's like, I'm out 5 inches.
He's like,
I'm like,
I ain't even dealing with this, and I'm just
like, is it dead, or did it just get out of dodge?
Oh, it's dead. It went over the cliff going, it's better for me to die over the cliff than to sit here and deal with that shit.
Like I'm going out on my terms.
Exactly.
I'm like, what? Because it's like the only like it's carrying everything, and then I keep wanting to call him Tanjiro. I'm like, all of the names in my head are all locked on the Demon Slayer.
Yeah. Same here.
Out of the kid, the main guy.
Yeah.
He's like healing his joints and stuff like that and everything. And I'm like, oh, they're taking care of the cow thing. And then it's like, I'm out, just jump. I'm like, hey.
Can you give us their stuff at least? Yeah, no, that just like when I saw that happen, like between the spear guy's response and that animal just killing itself, I'm like, oh, this is some serious shit right now. We have entered the danger zone right here and right now. And then the main character starts talking, and I'm like, don't talk.
I was like, shut up.
Don't talk.
Like, shut up.
But to be
Read
fair,
the room, dude.
okay, so he's not really good at doing that, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously, he's not really good about
Oh
that.
my God, he's never gonna learn.
No, he's never gonna learn. But at the same time, I can see kind of where he was like, this seems like an important figure, and I kind of need to know some information about whether or not what happened to deal with this catastrophe that's befallen so many people situation. So I can see where that was coming from. But the fact that he asks him about the man god, and up until this point, he has kept that secret from everybody.
Yeah.
Even the closest people that has been with him. The girl, the spirit guy, all of them, he's not said a word about the fact that he is seeing this man god. And then all of a sudden for him to just go, oh, you mean the one in my dream? And then all of a sudden it just boom. And I'm like, why did you say that? Why did you just go, no? Simple no. What are you talking about? That would have been it. He would have just walked away.
I feel like if he was I'm like, who's like one of the sly main characters from like an isekai? Like maybe the uh, maybe the guy I want to say maybe the guy from Konosuba or something, like somebody who is like a kind of smart aleck, where he's like, oh no, I always dream of girls. Like I wish he would have said something like cool like that.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh no, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Everybody else is quiet. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Talk about it later.
So, that in itself was just a face palm in that moment. But there's obviously more to this story. Like, this is why I said I love the growing, or the world continuing to grow, because the girl that he was with, that the powerful guy was with, made some comment, and then next thing we know, the main character is healed. And I'm like, what was the comment? What could she have possibly said, considering his murderous intent that he had right from the get-go, after learning that he kind of is like some sort of apostle of the man god or whatever? What possible thing could she have said to make him go, you know what, you're right, let me heal them and I'll just go about my business?
And then it's like, who is she to like be able to change his mind?
Exactly. Like, there is so much more going on behind the scenes, and now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, obviously, I feel like I've been brainwashed a little bit in regards to coming across gods in animes, because yes, they've had those that you're just like, from like Konosuba, where you're just sitting here going, oh my god, just shut her the fuck up, I don't want to listen to her anymore. They're the annoying ones, and then they have the benevolent ones or whatever. But very rarely do they portray gods to be the way gods are in our sort of folklore?
Yeah.
Where they scheme, they have things going on behind the scenes that you may never know about until it becomes apparent. And now that these things have been happening, I'm sitting here going, there's some sort of like war going on, or there is some sort of conflict that you're just not aware of going on at the moment. And I know he's helping you out every now and then for some weird, strange reason, but
I hate him.
I think there's some reason behind the reason why he's doing that.
Yeah.
You may not want to trust him as much as you Well, he's not. To be fair, he's not like overly trusting him, anyways. In fact, he kind of did the opposite of what he said the first time you came up to him.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's just because of the fact that he's what is it? Where he's projecting because the insecurity is because of his previous life where he kind of got that thought of like God's abandoned me sort of situation kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Given his current situation and everything that happened to him. So it's like I can kind of see where that comes from, but at the same time, I think he needs to really dig deep and come up with some poignant questions for this man god on what the hell's going on, because I don't think he's being told everything.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, I am really, oh my god, and the way, oh geez, I'm just thinking about it because it's been a while since I watched it, because I watched it when it came out, which is like a month ago now at this point, I think.
Yeah.
The freaking his love interest, the freaking girl, the elf girl. She's at
Sylphie.
yeah, she's at the magic school.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay.
Yeah, she's at the magic school and she's trying to convince them to go after the main character and bring him into the school, saying that he can cast magic without incantations.
He never made it to the school.
No, that was his whole reason for going to. So he asked his
Was that
dad.
where he was headed before he got wrapped up in everything?
No. So what happened is early on, after his teacher left, he asked his dad, "I want to go to the magic school, but I want Sylphie to come with me too,
Mm-hmm.
so that way both of us go." And his dad said, "Look, I can't afford that. That's too much. Like I could potentially get you out there, but I'm not going to be able to afford both of you to go."
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, "Fine,
Oh.
I'll get me a job. I'll
Yes.
earn the money so that way both of us can go."
Yes.
And it was during his this is why he was teacher for the girl that he's been traveling with. And then she's like, "Oh, and then that whole catastrophe happened and he got teleported."
Okay.
So no, he never went there. And I think she only went there because of the fact that she probably got teleported there.
Okay.
So yeah, God, there's so many more things that are going on in this, and I'm just like, oh my God, give me another season. I want to see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's talk about the bad in regards to this. Is the second to last episode, I think, was when he did it with the girl.
That was so like
Awkward.
it was very, very, very awkward.
Incredibly awkward. I honestly was just like, don't do it, dude. Just don't do it.
I'm like,
Here's the thing. Here's the thing,
he's
though.
like, I'm only
Here's
gonna
the thing.
say this once, and I'm like, what are you gonna? I'm like, oh, you said that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I will say, it was contrary to what most people probably thought as far as that goes, and what everyone it was playing towards from the very beginning, most people would think that he would be the instigator of this whole thing. Like he would be the one to, have her, and force her or do whatever to her, or convince her or whatever. Given the circumstances of how everything went, she was the instigator.
Yeah, because he was like, but we said when I turned 15. He's like, I'm not
Yeah,
15 yet.
yeah. But she felt, I think, she was getting put into a position that she didn't necessarily know too much about, and she kind of wanted to, I feel like, get into her own headspace and make a final decision in regards to that. And then to have it later be said that she feels like she's always behind him and holding him back, and she wants to gain enough strength so that way, instead of walking behind him, she can walk beside him.
Yeah, because they've never been in a battle where they just got mowed down.
No. But then again, think about all the battles they've been through. A lot
Yeah,
of times it's been him who's pulled something out to end it.
yeah,
And I think even in that battle with the strongest dude, the dragon god dude, he she still saw that moment when he, even though he was skewered through and had a hole in him essentially, he was still fighting.
yeah,
Like he was still putting up a fight. And
yeah,
that probably cued into her of like, wow, I got mowed down the second I even tried to swing my sword at him and just got knocked the frick out. Whereas he's in worse shape than me because he's on death's door and he's still fighting.
yeah.
He's still forcing himself to fight. So there's a lot of subtleties I feel like that is involved with that. Can't necessarily say. And here's the thing: since they are like 15, basically is what she was at least, and he was 14. I do know in that sort of age group and age realm that your logical brain doesn't always necessarily compute things too well. You're not always thinking things all the way through to their conclusion. Um, so in the given the situation of circumstances, all right, I'm not gonna like, berate the point of what happened. I think, and I know there are probably people out there who'd be like, "But she was only 15." I'm like, okay, look, guys, if this is kind of in a fantasy, one is fantasy realm, two, if this is kind of like a medieval sort of situation, 15 for them might be like 25 for us, given
Uh,
how given how
that's
long given how long people live.
yeah. I was about to say 15 is like 40. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm like
I
back
was
then
trying to be a little
you were dead
conservative,
at like you were dead before you hit 40, like
yeah,
35 and you were dead.
if you hit 40, you were considered like an ancient or something like that,
Yeah,
essentially. Whereas in our day and age, that's just like middle age.
yeah.
You know. So I'm like, yeah, this is an awkward situation. I think the one thing, and I know, yes, there was a reasoning behind it, but it just felt like I'm like, oh my God, haven't we been through enough now at this point that we can move on from this, that we can not be in this situation, both mentally and physically, is the round of depression that he went through afterwards.
So right before that, I'm like, things just started falling apart. I'm like, they were headed, I guess, to his homeland. They came across the guy, got slapped around, kicked in the stomach, bopped in the head, and then like they get to his homeland, and I'm like, oh, that's the hat, and he started having all these memories and everything, and then like right before that, the man god told him that like the curses are disappearing, and like he says that to he said that to the guy, and the guy just kind of starts crying. I'm like, where did all this come from? I'm like, you get bopped in the head and now you're all sensitive. I'm like, what the hell? This is a complete like character change. I'm like, what's going on? And then that whole scene between them two, and then I'm like, what's happening? And they're like, okay, everybody's going their own separate ways. And I'm like, nah, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like,
At least they were nice enough to explain why she kind of felt the need to go her own separate way.
yeah.
And whatnot. I'm like, dude, okay, yes, you formed a bond with these people, but it's not like they rejected you, like they just went up to you and go, "You're an idiot. I don't want to be around you anymore. Fuck off," kind of situation. No, she left you a message and almost was apologetic in her message of just being like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And you kind of knew the fact that the dude with the spear, yes, he's been an asset to you guys for the longest time, but at the same time, you knew that eventually that was going to dissolve.
Because I was like, what was the deal? I was like, what is he like? Could you escort me back home? And he's like, okay. And then that's been like the agreed thing this whole
Yeah,
time.
basically.
Yeah, because I was like, I can't
His
remember.
whole mission from the very get go was, I'll get you home.
Yeah, because I was like, I can't
And then
remember if that's the deal.
when he got him home, he's like, all right, I got you home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you knew these things were happening and you saw that they're not blaming you for them. It's not like your past life. Now I get that can be hard for somebody who's been through traumatic experiences like he has.
Yeah,
I
like
get
that,
I
like
get that.
just the boom, 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 like 3 days in a row. It's like
I
I
get
lost my bodyguard, I lost my woman, and now I'm here by myself. And I'm like, yeah,
But I mean,
it's a
and
lot to happen all at the same time.
maybe it's because I haven't had that experience or whatnot, but I know I felt pretty low in certain instances in my life and situations. And I just look at it and go, you know what? Maybe take a day or two to just kind of be like, all right, I need to decompress. I need to just kind of just clear it all out. If you gotta cry, cry. If you gotta scream and yell to the heavens, scream and yell to the heavens. Go out into the middle of an open field out there, call down as many lightning strikes or whatever that you feel you need to in order to make your point of how frustrated or upset you are about
Because there's
given the
nothing
given
left.
circumstances
There's
until
nothing
there's
around. You don't have to
until
worry
there's
about hitting houses
nothing.
and trees.
Yeah, exactly. Go really far out there because we know you can cause some shit. And I was like, and then once you're done with that, figure out what you're gonna do. You still have your mom to look for.
Yeah, I was like, what?
She
I'm like,
hasn't
fine,
been
look for your
found.
mom, look for Sylvia.
You
I was like,
you
come
don't
on, man.
even though Sylvia is we as the audience have seen Sylvia is safe. He doesn't know that. Go find Sylvia. Like you have goals that you can go for. Get it out of your system. Get all that frustration, the rejection and all that you feel out of your system and be like, all right, let's do it. And be like, hey, dude, I'm going to help you real quick because I want to resupply myself. So in return for me moving some earth for you that you need me to do or whatever in this,
Digging
whatever,
a couple wells.
digging a couple wells, give me like some food, some water, maybe a horse or whatever. And then I got to go because I can't stay here. And then call it good. Now, again, he's 15 or he's actually 14.
Yeah.
He's 14. He has gone through traumatic experiences in his past. He really hasn't had a lot of social experiences. I get it. But goddamn, is it so frustrating for someone to watch who is even as empathetic as myself and is trying to understand what sort of thought processes they could be going through. I'm just like, he was there probably for like at least a couple weeks, I think, before they finally started coming around to him and going, hey, look, you got to start helping out because we can't keep this up.
Yeah, because the fruit and stuff started having like flies and stuff on it, so he was there for like a bit.
He was there for a bit.
Yeah.
Like it may not have been like months. I probably doubt that, but he was at least there for probably at least if not a week, 2 weeks. And I'm like, a day or two, sure, I can understand that. Get it out of your system. Feel a little bit bad for yourself or whatever. But then realize you still have stuff you need to do, and that you are still capable of doing that stuff. Like
Yeah,
you have your health. You have a goal. You met a freaking dragon god. You're kind of being pulled around by the nose by a man god or whatever. Start looking into that shit. Or start gaining more power and realize I am not powerful enough to take that motherfucker on. Let me go gain more power.
it's like, what would your dad think? I'm like, your dad already, even though he didn't fully understand the whole situation, or maybe he did and was like in a weird mood, but I'm like, what do you think your dad's gonna think if you just laid in bed for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I'm like, you traveled from the demon continent and barely like got here by the skin of your teeth, and he was upset. What do you think he's gonna say if you laid in bed for 2 weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm like, dude, honestly, in my mind, yes, I would be very much like wanting to gain, not or to realize where my mom is or where Sylphia is, but almost because of that experience with the dragon god and knowing that the man god is still a part of my life or whatever, I would be like, I need to go to that school and I need to get some better knowledge about what the fuck I'm doing, because obviously that shit can't happen again. Because I got lucky essentially by the fact that I survived that.
Yeah, he already resigned himself to be like, I guess this is over. He's like, where do I go next? And he's like, oh no, you're not dead. And he's like, you got another chance. And it's like, come on.
You're not gonna get a whole lot of many more of those. Like
Yeah,
there's gonna be another instance of that. So in my mind, if I was in his situation, I'd be like, maybe after a day or two of being like, all right, this kind of sucks. This is horrible. I'm on my own. I've never been on my own. I'm like, and everyone abandoned me, and I'd be like, all right, done. Let's go freaking to that school and let's demand I get shown what the fuck to do on how to control and get more powerful, because I need it. If
yeah.
that
Cause I'm
dragon
like,
god comes up to me again, I need to be able to handle him quickly and efficiently.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, your bodyguard left and you got left alone, but it's like, but you're still alive. You got a woman who definitely loves you and she'll be back. And your fam, like,
And you still have your
some
dad.
of your
And
family's alive
yeah,
that you know for sure.
yeah,
You don't know about the rest. I'm like, there's still some stuff to do.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, maybe some of the way things happened kind of played out and like brought you back to some PTSD, but
I don't know.
two
Again,
weeks 2 weeks is a little long.
I have no reference in my experience to say that I would understand how he may feel in that regards, but from a viewer standpoint, to at least my understanding, I just looked at that and it was just such a just like, like I was saying before about the blonde hair chick from Medico Chan, where I just wanted to smack her upside the head. Kind of want to do the same thing with him. Dude, get your shit together. Let's go. you know?
One thing that I was I man, I don't remember a lot like these like Demon Slayer and this show. I'm like, I forgot so much. Cause when that little demon girl, like, did she play a big part?
She's the one who gave him, the main character, his eye.
I was wondering, I was like, why is one of his eyes? I like completely forgot what happened.
Yep.
And
But that goes to show he can see within, like, without concentrating. I think he said he can see with like 10 to 15 seconds ahead of time.
mhm.
And that goes to show how fast the demon god dude is, or the dragon
Yeah.
god dude is, because he literally, before he could even move, saw all the places where he was about to get hit and had to check himself and then got hit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit. God damn, dude.
Yeah.
So,
I do feel like it was a little bit of a cheat that she gave who did she talk to? The demon girl? Um and told her where everybody was. Was it?
oh, it was um Rue, her teacher. Fuck, I can't
Oh,
remember.
yeah. Roxy.
Roxy.
Yeah. The little demon girl told Roxy where everybody was and that his mom was still alive. So I was like, thank you, but that's kind of cheating. But I'm not gonna complain other than I'm gonna say that's cheating a little bit. All
Well,
right, moving on.
even knowing where they are isn't helping get them back.
Yeah.
Because obviously we found out from the fact that the maid and her daughter were essentially being held by what's his face.
Oh, fucking.
Yeah. So that was an ordeal unto itself. So you can imagine, I mean, his mom is a healer,
Mama.
but she was also an adventurer.
Yeah.
She probably can handle herself. So yes, she's alive, but why has she not been able to contact anybody after all this time?
Yeah. And I'm like,
There's a
what was the
reason.
continent that he said?
There's a reason behind it.
So I'm like, is this a third new continent?
Maybe.
Because
Geographically, I'm not 100% sure how all these things line up. I mean, I just know of them, but I'm not
yeah,
even sure. Like, I would love to see like a world map kind of detailing where each of these places exist.
yeah. So I'm like,
Honestly, if I saw a world map of where each of these places exist, and given the location of where the main character and the girl got teleported after the incident that occurred, I would love to see how far they had to trek in order to get back to where they were.
yeah,
Because I think I would have more of a not only an understanding but more of a appreciation
yeah,
for what they had to go through in order to get to that point.
yeah. Because they had to get on boats for a long time,
It did.
barfing the whole
Yep.
time.
That they did.
um, yeah, I'm wondering where this other continent is because it's like people mentioned the demon continent and then they were on the demon continent. You're like, this is what everybody was talking about. This sucks.
Yeah.
That's what everybody was talking about. And now it's like this new continent that doesn't really have any like info about it. And it's like, it's on Isabata continent. And you're like, where?
Yeah.
What is that?
You give me a map and let me know where the hell that's at.
Yeah. And then it's like, I'm just assuming that that place is all blue because the demon continent was all reddish. And I'm like, it's blue and it's cold and it's
I was about to say
icy and
if it's
underwater.
blue, yeah, if it's blue, that means it's in frozen wastelands, and I don't necessarily
Yeah,
care for that.
yeah, or underwater because it kept showing like air bubbles, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, continent, and I don't know. So yeah, I'm like, hey, we got a whole, we got a whole another continent to go to, and then we
Yep.
got to meet up with Sylphie, and I'm like,
And then eventually, I think this whole war between the gods is going to be coming to a head.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm excited. I want to see. I want to see more. I want to see where this goes. Like I feel like there's unlike with Demon Slayer where like I can kind of visualize like how things are going to play out.
mhm,
I have no idea how this is going to play out.
yeah,
I would love. I will say this though. I would love for there to be an honest to God time skip at some point. We haven't had one of those in a while. Let's get the main character to the magic school and let's do a time skip.
Yeah.
Let's just get it out of the way. Let's age him up to the appropriate age of where he
Yeah.
should be at for doing
Yeah.
all this crap.
Get to the magic school, reunite with Sylvie, and then time skip.
In time skip. I would appreciate that. Let's at least get him up to 18. I would feel so much better about so many of the incidences that keep occurring during the course of his ventures if he was at least to that point.
Man. It's gonna be interesting. Cause then like his sisters will be the age that he is now. And
4 more years,
the
I think
dad.
they'd be about. I don't think they'd be to his age, but they'd probably be like close. They'd probably be like just hitting 12 or something like that. I think they're still like 8 and 9 or something like that.
Okay.
So about another 4 more years. I mean, it'd be nice if he was maybe in his lower 20s and they were probably closer to like the teenagers kind of situation.
Yeah, anime protagonist age.
Yeah.
And then the dad will be a little bit older.
I don't know.
Um
Like
yeah,
there are some there
it's
are some
interesting.
things there are some things I would love to see from the series. Some things I would love to learn more about and see see the protect our protagonist grow. I want to see him his journey, his I mean, because the things that he did when facing the dragon god, dude, I'm like, dude, I didn't even know you fucking could do that.
Yeah.
But that's freaking cool. And the fact that the dragon god dude was actually impressed with the amount of magic of that he was able to put into his spells, like how
Yeah.
powerful they were. Like he didn't necessarily like say, "Oh my god, this is something." He's just like, "Oh, he's probably about on par with so and so," and I'm like, "Excuse me, who's so and so? That name does sound familiar, but I want to know if I should be worried about that or not."
Yeah, because it was like he's over there like half dead, and he's like vortex, fireball, plasma ball, giant energy blast. I'm like, how much bigger is it gonna get? I'm
See, and
like, aren't you half dead?
I appreciate, yeah, exactly. I appreciate though that it's one thing that when it comes to isekais, I appreciate that when the main character can pull upon his knowledge of our world to further something in the world he's currently in. So I think like the fact that he did what he did with that fire spell because he made it normal, but then we knew it was more intense because the color changed.
Yeah,
But somebody in their world may not understand that or understand why the significance behind that because they don't understand that once you get to a certain temperature, flames will actually change color.
yeah,
But when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, dude," because that reminded me of like shit, fucking the wise man's grandson,
hmm
where he did his spell and he called in two flames and then he combined them, and as he's doing that he's saying and add more air to increase the intensity, and as that happened it went from red and yellow to just blue coming through, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be something fantastic
yeah,
and very powerful. So
yeah. So, um, yeah, yeah. And it's like basically how the beginning of this season opened up. It's like we either cut to him already time, like already shifted time, already skipped in time, or we get to a new location, do a little time skip, kind of like summary of what's been happening.
and all we'd have to do is if we begin the new season with like a time skip, if he's at the magical school and whatnot and found Sylphie or whatever, just give us like a short little synopsis, just being like, oh yeah, he came there because he was focused on, wanting to gain more power, and there was no real encounters that on his way that he had to like, other than just, going through the weather, because I think it's up in like a snowy mountain or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he had to go do that, but once he did that, he was there.
Yep. And he easily got in through Sylvie's recommendation, and then
Yep.
yeah, jumped a couple classes ahead because he's awesome like that.
Yep.
And here's where he is now.
Yep. Now it's 6 years later, and he's freaking super powered. Well, maybe not super powered, but at least like he's more knowledgeable, and now he's like more of a match of like the Dragon God dude.
Yep. And he knows where the where his mom is because he found out what the name of the new continent is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see it being done so many ways. I'm hoping that that happens. Sadly, I think what's going to happen is probably we're going to still stick with him at the same freaking age. And I don't know if he's actually going to go to that magical school or if he'll just try to go find his mom. It's a toss up.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, either way, I'm excited for season 3 or because this was like
Great.
core 1 and core 2, right? For this. So
Yeah.
would this
It's
be technically speaking season 1 as a whole and then next season would be season 2?
I don't really know. I'm like,
Cuz I
this
think
is like
then
part two.
yeah, I
So
was about
I'm
to say
like,
they called it part 2 from the other one.
yeah, so I'm guessing it's just gonna be part three, part four. I don't know whether they're gonna break it into seasons. Like, yeah. So I'm like, after two more parts, then I'm like, you gotta kind of lump it. I'm like, it's 50,
Yeah.
it's 52 episodes. We gotta,
Yeah. I mean, I don't care. You call it whatever the hell you want to call it. Just, make it some sort of semblance of understanding.
yeah. And if they keep doing part, then I'm like, fine, because it seems like Demon Slayer's doing the same thing.
Hmm.
Where they're like this saga, that
This
saga.
arc and this arc
Yeah,
and
and yeah. So, can't wait for it to come back. Ah, it's so good.
agreed.
All right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is The Faraway Paladin.
This was probably one of my more favorite fantasy animes to come out as of late.
Okay.
Um, it is also technically an isekai, but they kind of gloss over that a little bit.
Mhm.
So, base story, and I think the reason why I say it's fantasy is one of my four favorite fantasies is because just like with Jobless Reincarnation, the the world and the overarching storyline continues to grow as as the episodes come out and develops.
Okay.
And it's very rare that as of late, it's very rare that you see fantasy stories really go to that extent. Most of them just go, Demon Lord, go kill it. All right, yay, hero, good job situation. There's no like deep understanding or thought process behind it.
Mhm.
And there is, some of that in this, but I feel like there's also a great deal more involved with it. Um, so the basis from the standpoint of the character, the main character, he gets reincarnated into this world as a baby. So kind of in the same instance of like Saga, Tanya the Evil, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, as a baby, but he the reason he was brought into a temple as part of going to be a sacrifice. The temple itself houses a seal to the demon lord, and he was going to be brought in as a sacrifice in order to break the seal
Mhm.
as a baby. So that ends up getting stopped, but who ends up stopping it is a ghost, a mummy sort of character, and a Death Knight. You end up finding out that they were human, and they were adventurers who actually were the ones who helped create the original seal to begin with. Now essentially they're guardians over this, trying to make sure no one ever messes with it. The seal itself is inside of a city, which is now a dead city, because during this whole battle, in order to get the seal in place and whatnot, it pretty much, yeah, all life in that city was pretty much extinguished, kind of situation.
Okay.
So they find the baby, and they actually decide to raise it as their child. So it's him being isekai, and then all of a sudden wakes up to find a ghost, a mummy kind of figure, and a Death Knight, all there to raise him to be an adult. And then, oh god, it's just like there's so much involvement, because then when you reach a certain age in this world, you have to take a pledge to a one of the gods, a pledge of fealty. There's many different gods in this world, and depending upon the resolve and how much you put into it is depending upon how much you're given in return for your abilities and power in regards to that. And he put forward a pretty significant pledge of to be able to basically destroy the god of death and destruction. Because that was kind of the god that caused his family to become the undead that they were. Um, yeah, it goes so that at that point he creates the vow. He kind of has a 1v1 with the death god at that point, and after coming out of it, he is essentially sent on a pilgrimage to the goddess that he pledged his loyalty to. Um, Sends him on a pilgrimage in order to gain more followers and also gain more claim for himself, because apparently the seal, irregardless of whatever demons or whatever monsters may do with it, is already going to be breaking. And he needs to gain enough power and ability, and gain her enough power and ability to be able to fight the demon once he becomes resurrected.
Okay.
So it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it will happen. So he's kind of set out on a journey, and the thing is that one, he does kind of know some sort of interactions and whatnot, but at the same time, he's from his previous life, but at the same time, he's kind of never been out into the world in this world, so knows almost nothing about the world itself. But he's been trained in the arts of magic and sword fighting and all this other stuff by some of the most powerful people this world has ever known when they were alive. So you kind of have an interesting conundrum kind of going on here. And it's him actually kind of forming his adventuring party and trying to rout demons as he goes along, and at the same time gaining himself and his goddess more acclaim, because the goddess he serves under has kind of fallen out of, it's not that she's looked on unfavorably, it's that not many people remember her anymore.
Mhm.
And therefore find no real reason to give her any sort of worship or penance in regards to that.
So like Aqua.
Yeah. 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 So, but that to me, it's like, and the adventures that they go on, I'm like, man, this could be straight out of a D&D campaign or whatever,
Mhm.
and I would not be surprised.
All right,
Like
so there's
it
this.
feels so like it's so much of like a reminiscence in my mind of like, man, this is like I could be with a friend and a dungeon master and be playing out these parts, and it just feels right.
Mhm.
You know, the connections you make, you have to talk with this guy and then go to this guy and then you fight with these guys and then there's a battle here, but you know, you have to like coordinate between all the people involved in that, you know. Like he took down a Drake, but in order to take down a Drake, he has an elven archer that he's with who used sprites in order to actually clip the wing, or not necessarily clip the wings, but like hinder the wings so it fell out of the sky. And then he used his own ability in order to leap up and then like took the head off of the Drake or whatever. I'm like, it's coordination, and that's
Yeah.
shit you got to do. I mean, I'm like, so I mean, this may not necessarily be everyone's slice of bread, you know, cup of tea for that regards. But to me, it's like if you're old school fantasy and just love the idea of having a party to adventure with and to do quests with and to just have sorts of fun stuff going on with, go watch this. It's freaking awesome. I love the crap out of it. Um, you know, it it's probably just a step down from Jobless Reincarnation,
Mhm.
but it's still pretty much right there. So it takes just a little bit of getting used to just to get everything storyline wise situated, so that way you're caught up to where whatever's going on. But once everything starts getting going, like again, you give it the three episode kind of rule for most people do for animes. By the third episode, you're gonna be hooked. At least I was. So
Yeah. Um, yeah, this one seems um the whole like situation seems interesting. Um, yeah, I might check it out one day. Throw it on my very long backlog.
I'm about to say I've heard that song and dance before.
Yeah. All right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is the world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world and as an aristocrat.
So this one is probably just a step under from Faraway Paladin. I do find it interesting that this premise for this story is that a goddess has been reincarnating people from our world in order to try and go kill the hero that she has gotten. I don't know, from our world or from another world. So, as I explained this to someone else before, I said, look, think about it this way. Most animes go, we need a hero. We're going to give him a lot of power because he's going to go kill the demon lord. And we need that to happen. But what happens after the hero goes and kills the demon lord? Is there anybody strong enough to contend with? Or is now the hero the strongest living creature inside this world? Is the hero going to do the honorable thing and step down and go retire in a cottage? Or do you think there might be some people, given all that power and responsibility, having taken care of the demon lord, that goes, well, I'm the strongest person here, and I'm just going to, you know, put forward, you know, that I should be king and I should be rule over everything, because who's
Mm,
going to stand in my way?
yeah.
So hence what this goddess decides to do is like he tells people, look, I want you to kill the hero after he goes and kills the demon lord. And I know that's going to be a task and a half because he's going to be super powerful and whatnot, but this is what I want you to do. So she resurrects this assassin who basically got killed because, yeah, the organization that he was under essentially didn't have a use for him anymore. He had already completed all his missions and jobs, and they're like, now you're just a loose end, essentially.
Yeah.
So they killed him. He gets given the option and goes, we're going to resurrect you as a baby. You're going to go through life. But as you're doing this, you're going to have retain all your memories, all your experience, everything you've done from your previous life. So your understanding of all of this will be as you are now. And you'll have an understanding of the abilities and powers you have because I'm going to give you an option on what to pick from. And most people are just given randomly. I'm going to allow you to actually pick from all of these options that you have in order to make sure you are as powerful as you can be from your perspective. Um, and here again, this is why I think it's cool because someone from our world going to another world gets takes inspiration and understanding of our world and applies it to that world. And basically gives him abilities to where he can like regenerate quickly, but he like gets stronger. So like he depletes all of his mana, but when he depletes all of his mana, it would like like with jobless reincarnation. Once you zero it out, it fills back up, but it fills back up more so than where it was at because of the ability he gave himself in order to do so. So as he's growing up, he continually drains it down, fills it back up, and gets more and more and more each and every single time.
Yeah, it's like building a muscle.
Yeah, essentially. And it's kind of what he intended it to, essentially, is I think that is building like a muscle. Um, but the funny thing is that yes, he was reborn as aristocracy, but the aristocracy he was reborn as is a family of assassins.
Isn't that convenient?
Yeah. Well, so they're assassins for the kingdom that they're in, and they're also, in order for cover for themselves, they're also physicians. So they have an understanding of human anatomy, human, weaknesses and stuff like that. But they're also, whenever there's an issue in the kingdom, they also go out and dispatch that in whichever means they figure it to be best. This leads to, I will say, this show does not hold back in regards to showing the seedier, more evil side of humanity in regards to that. They deal with things such as slavery. They deal with sex trafficking. They deal with a lot of underhanded little. I look at it this way, and it's what was told from me before is like with John Wick. In the very beginning of the story is set up to the point to where there's a lot of meaningful and emotional things that you're given to understand before you even know anything about John Wick. So that way, once the killing starts, it's you're still rooting for John Wick to succeed. Because if you were given maybe his backstory prior to that and what he did or what he was, you may feel more conflicted once the bodies start hitting the floor.
Yeah. Once the body count starts escalating.
Yeah. So in this situation, they show the seedier, more grimier, dirtier side of humanity, only to be like, and that's the reason why we have to go kill him. And that's the reason why we go kill this one.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's like when you see the assassinations take place, you're like, yeah, no, that was justified. Yeah, no, that was meaningful. Yep, that should happen. Yep, nope, totally called for. And then also the fact that like he does gain followers and people he associates with, which in the beginning he kind of seems like he's taking advantage of certain situations, but he's also being very helpful in regards to that too, because he was looking for someone who had a great deal of mana in within them, and comes across a girl going through when he was out hunting in the forest that he was with, who basically got kicked from her home because they couldn't feed all the family, and he takes her in only because in his sight he sees that she has a great deal of mana, so she could be useful to him. But he's also doing a good deed because she was gonna die otherwise. It's kind of like one of those situations, just like, I mean, he's kind of. You're like almost in your mind, like he's a good guy, but he's kind of. I mean, so and then he kind of walks that line quite a few times. I feel like.
Mhm.
Um, I will say one of the final things, because he creates magic. That's one of his abilities as well that he gave himself, is the ability to create magic and whatnot. And he goes up against somebody who he feels like he's kind of been under the impression is the hero. And during the first part of it, he's in a castle and the hero's like outside on the hilltop on the castle waiting for him to come to him because he wants to face a 1v1. And the person he's with, he looks at it and goes, I have no chance of beating him. Like there's no way I can beat him. He's too powerful. He's too strong. But at one point he creates something. He creates a large, like cylindrical, almost and pointed piece of metal that was like almost actually taller than he was. And next thing you know, he kind of makes a waving motion and it kind of disappears. And I thought to myself, and I'm like, that seems vaguely familiar. I feel like I've seen something like similar in regards to that. And then as he's going out there, he's like, I have to stall for time. I have to like keep him where he's at and stall for time. And I'm like, I feel like I know what's going to happen here.
Hmm.
There's going to be something that's going to happen. And then like he stalls for enough time and they're counting down to the start of their fight. And right before the fight starts, there's just like this freaking nova of a goddamn explosion that happens on this hilltop that he was on. Just giant crater when the smoke finally clears of what the frick happened. And he wasn't necessarily close, but he wasn't necessarily too far. He got freaking thrown back all the way back to the castle from the impact of what happened. And he explains, and I was like, yeah, that's what I kind of thought. He took the inspiration from and I think I've seen this in like a movie before, where they shoot metal rods from space down onto the planet.
G.I.
And
Joe.
is that what it was from?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I've never seen it from a movie, but I'm like,
Yeah.
creates this huge explosion. Well, essentially, that's what he did. He created the rod, sent it into orbit, and then dropped it.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
used that as a way of killing him. Then again, you know, find out at the end of this that what he killed wasn't actually the hero.
Oh.
Because then the next they get see a coach is going up to this castle and they're like, "Let me introduce you to the hero," and he steps out and I'm like, "Oh, that's the hero." Well, we made a slight miscalculation and we killed him in regards, but the dude was an asshole anyway, so he deserved it. But still,
Our work is not done here.
our work is not done here. We still have things to do. But again, I appreciate when people do things like that, when they take like inspiration and things from our world into their world as a way of doing things. Like he actually introduced firearms into that world because of the fact that he was able to create the components for a gun and then use his magic to propel the bullet as it came out situation. To the point where not only did he use it for a pistol, he also used it for a sniper rifle and for freaking cannon. Like I'm not talking like a cannon like you'd see on like medieval type cannon. No, he used it for like a freaking like one of those you find on a battle cruiser.
Oh. Like an artillery cannon.
Because that was the first thing he tried against the hero. Was he basically the hero came through, made this giant hole in the side of the castle where he was at, and then as the smoke was clearing, all of a sudden you see this like electrical surge come up and it's just a cannon freaking appears and he just fires it and it just and detonates. But then the smoke clears and the hero damaged, but it's still standing there. And he was like, well, that wasn't enough. He's like, well, if that's not enough, I'm kind of out of options in regards to what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting premise. I appreciate the realism that they tried to throw into it, and even though you're with an assassin, the fact that they definitely give you enough reason to kind of be rooting for him as well. So like I it's well crafted as far as the storyline goes. There's definitely moments where it's a little harder to watch than others. I will say that for sure. But if you're, can get through it, it's definitely worth a watch. So,
Yeah. All right. The next show we're going to be talking about is. Oh, God, I can't read it. It's so small. I pulled it up. um, eh. What is? And his computer's actually pretty snappy today. Banished from the hero's party, I decided to live a quiet life in the countryside.
so this is definitely a character. It's a fantasy, but it's a character-driven fantasy. This is definitely not an isekai, which I appreciate. Um, but I don't know. This is definitely I would give a middle of the road fantasy sort of situation too.
Okay.
Like nothing drastic to write home about, but um I mean interesting for the way they portrayed it and what they went for. Because essentially everyone in this world is given an ability, and some of them are obviously more powerful than the others. And it's kind of the story itself kind of toys around with the idea of if you're given the ability, say for instance, to be like pickpocketer or some sort of like thief or killer or something like that, do you go with that or do you essentially fight against your own fate? If that's not what you want to be or what you want to do with it, do you try to do something else with it or do you just accept it as your fate and just do it? So let's say, for instance, in this situation, that was part of the reason with, say, the in the background, that blue hair chick is the hero, and she doesn't want to be the hero. She's tired of being the hero. Like she's the hero, and it was the same before in the last one, like the hero giving like a lot of buffs and powers and stuff like that. Like she is given stuff that, as far as to be her power of being a hero, calling for being a hero, essentially, that you'd look at and go, that's just kind of cruel. Like she doesn't need to eat, she doesn't need to sleep, she basically self heals. She um her the abilities themselves have almost deadened the emotions inside of her.
Yeah, that's no sleeping or eating. I'm like, those are like the two best things.
So to her, like she would really rather not, but she feels like she's not given a choice. Um, the main character, the guy, he I guess Red, yeah, it's been a while since I watched it. So Red,
The guy in the blue jacket.
the guy in the blue jacket. Well, so Red, he gets told by the mage in the party, like, look, you have the weakest gift, and you're honestly holding us back.
Okay, I remember.
Yeah. So he's like, you're honestly holding us back. You need to get the heck out of here. And he does. He does leave. But essentially afterwards, the party kind of starts falling apart because yes, he didn't necessarily have the strongest ability or the strongest power, but the power that he did have was kind of the glue that held everyone together and allowed them to do what it is that they had to do. But like the mage became so like because of his gift, he was kind of on the other end. He's like, my duty, my job is to help the hero. Like that's my purpose in life. That is what I do. And when he started hearing her say things like, I don't want to be the hero anymore, he just lost it. He became like, he's like, because she found him again where he was. And that's when she started saying things like, look, I don't want to be the hero anymore. And the mage just absolutely lost it and blamed him for it, saying, you're corrupting her just because we kicked you out of the party. You think that you can make it to where, the party no longer needs to exist anymore because the hero doesn't want to be the hero anymore. Like, no, that doesn't work that way. No, you can't do this. And basically became crazy in regards to that. It I don't know. It was I don't know. I think the pacing was a little weird and funky, especially because Red ended up coming across somebody who he knew from being in the Heroes Party, Rin, who already kind of had a thing for him because of previous past experiences that they had. And maybe had we seen more of those interactions, it would have felt more like this was, justified or needed. But it just seemed like the two of them just kind of came together as a couple, like out of nowhere. And then, like, I don't know. The pacing just seemed off. Like, I feel like this is definitely one of those that could have done a lot better if they'd been given more episodes to work with.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily fault the anime itself. I just fault the fact that this is the new norm and this is what they have to deal with. And because they felt like they had to have a story completion from start to finish, and they tried to do that, this is what we got left with. And I feel like they suffered because of that. Because there was so much more going on in this world. There were so many more things happening in this world that I would love to have learned about. Like, they go into what they call like an elven laboratory or apothecary or whatever, and it looks futuristic. And I'm like, are you gonna tell me like this fantasy world was like made by somebody or something like that? Like, they had like transporting hologram elevators and shiny metal walls for corridors, and these, like, the hero had there were these forged swords that like would, I don't know, this crazy shit that freaking happened. I'm just sitting here going, where's the story behind all this? Where's the reasoning behind this? I would love to hear about it. But I feel like there was so many story threads and so many things that they could have gone more with, and their potential was there, but I just don't feel like they were able to capture all of it. So, according to the situation of like, too many cooks in the kitchen or just too many loose ends floating around, you just didn't have to be able to grab all of them. So, but
not enough chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yes. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's definitely been lower in my mind rated fantasies. I just feel like it didn't meet its own potential.
Okay. Cool. All right. The next show and the last show we're going to talk about today is where's the name? Shinka. Oh, picture's different. It was right below it.
Yep.
The Fruit of Evolution. Before I knew it, my life had it made.
So
I feel like this whole episode's been like greatness, and then like next
we've
show.
been going downhill since then. I kind of thought that. I'm like, man, If only you traded this for like jobless, at least we would have ended on like a really high note or something like that.
Just front
Um,
load this real
yeah,
bad.
I kind of did. I mean, Demon Slayer, jobless, and um, even the Faraway Paladin was even up there. So I mean, I don't know necessarily what else to say about this. This is probably about as stereotypical of an anime as an isekai anime as you possibly can get. And it's an isekai harem anime.
Okay.
So the guy gets transported to the other world. He's in his world, in our world, he's a loser. No one wants to deal with him. So when everyone was sitting in their desk and got transported the um to this other world, they all got transported together, but because he wasn't, he got transported separately and was like left inside of this forest essentially. He ends up, because he's hungry, coming across some monkeys who end up dropping the fruit of evolution, and he just eats them up. And after you eat so many of them, you basically evolve. So
Okay.
he looked like originally the guy on the left and then got transformed to the guy on the right. He comes across the clan of apes who he starts gaining a lot of abilities and powers because as he starts going through, now that he's evolved, he kind of like almost starts absorbing the abilities. He starts being seen and doing and being able to start replicating them on his own. And his strength already is already, because of the evolution and because of that he was isekai from our world into their world, he was already given better stats, and the fruit of evolution just gave him even better stats as far as
Okay.
that goes. So he comes across the ape colony that gave, or didn't give him, he just took the fruits from because they dropped them. And the big gorilla on the left hand basically falls in love with him, saying that he's the strongest person or being that she's ever come across. And he kind of rejects her until the very end of like the second episode, in which he's like, you know what, just go with it. It's fine. And I guess she ate one of the fruits because then she turns into the girl on the right hand side.
Mhm.
They basically venture into a city that was nearby when they finally get out of the forest and go into a guild to start becoming adventurers because they're like, well, none of us are we gonna do. We are powerful enough to be able to handle most anything, and yeah, shenanigans ensue just because he's powerful. And I guess every time he keeps defeating these really powerful entities, and every time he does, he levels up, gains more abilities. So it's like a running joke at the end of every episode. They give a listing of his stats and all the abilities that he currently possesses,
Mhm.
and that list keeps going longer and longer and longer each and every time. And now every time he levels up, he keeps, because there's like some computerized voice that tells him like, "Oh, you've leveled up," and he's like, "Again, I don't want to become more of a monster than I already am. Thank you very much. This is already getting ridiculous. Stop it. I don't want it. No, take it back." Um, yeah, he can create magic now. Yeah, I guess at one point the kingdom that he was in gets under attack by demons, and he, at first the city defends itself, and then I guess a nearby magic, the dean, the head wizard of a nearby magic had been visiting, and then kind of lends a hand and annihilates a good portion of them. And then all of a sudden a much larger army approaches out of nowhere, and they're like, well, we can't do any shit about that. We're already like tired, beat up, worn out, and all this other stuff. So then he steps up and basically within one spell, mass just annihilates and luckily enough, because he'd been having an issue with like being able to pinpoint, like he was basically he was just like kind of like Deku again, going back to that. It's just mass just everywhere, just
Yeah.
destruction everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, this time he actually managed to make a spell that actually was pinpointed towards anyone who was an enemy.
Ah.
So it just evaporated all of a sudden, like beams of light shot down and was just like dead, 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 dead. Which impressed the mage to no end, and so he invited him to become a lecturer, a teacher at his school. Um, and his other classmates who had been taken to another kingdom, actually, funny enough, have only just recently can get taken to this school in order to learn about magic. So I'm at least somewhat curious as to if they do another season of this, what the outcome of once he actually joins back up with his previous classmates is going to be.
Oh, they have to explain that. I'm like, why didn't they do that in the first core? I'm like, that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, I want to know how that interaction's gonna be because he looks completely different. So I don't know if he's gonna be one of those like I'm gonna keep my identity a secret the entire time and not tell them I'm who
Yeah.
they think I am because they picked on me and all this other stuff while I was this person anyways. Or if
Yeah.
he's just going to immediately be like, "Hey guys, it's me. How's it going?" I don't know. I'm curious to see how that's gonna play out.
Yeah, they made him such a huge outcast, and then he gets powerful, and I'm like, then you gotta get back.
Yeah.
Oh, I just moved away.
Well,
That's how.
he basically accepted his role and has been gaining um his harem essentially because first was the monkey girl, then came so his when he first became an adventurer, he was given a other adventurer to kind of gauge their abilities or whatever and went out on quests and ended up saving her life and then helping her because she was very unlucky, like her luck status was like negative 10,000 or something like that. So like she caused like calamities. She was known as the calamity because she would cause mass destruction of everyone around her, even her party members. But he actually found a way of reversing that and actually making her it negated it to where she's actually now just a really good adventurer.
Negative 10,000 on a scale of what?
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't explain it.
Jesus.
She's so far in the negatives that basically anything she did or anything she tried to do, usually someone around her got like she never got hurt, but everyone around her would get hurt or killed essentially.
Yeah.
So no one ever wanted to be around her. And then because he helped her, she fell in love with her. And then I guess I don't know, I just remember exactly how that came about, but there's some horse creature that he ended up going into a race for that ended up evolving. I don't remember it was from the evolution fruit or something else, but it ended up evolving into a girl. And I'm like, oh, good lord, go figure. Another girl. Oh no. Yeah. So yeah, it's like there was so many predictabilities in this, but I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of like one of those what do they call them? Like the popcorn action movies where it's just like
Yeah.
you know what's gonna happen and you
Yeah.
know how it's gonna play out, but you're still like, I want to see it happen and I want to
Yeah.
see it play out. So, like, if they did do another season of this, I probably will watch it, even though I'm like, man, if this took the place of Jabba's reincarnation, I'm gonna be pissed off sort of situation. You know what I mean? Just like I would prefer that over this, but if
Yeah.
this comes out, I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. So
Okay. Cool, cool. All right. Well, that is it for our final thoughts on the fall anime of 2021. Oh man.
hmm
Yeah. Um, next week we'll be back to talk about our initial thoughts on the new season that just started a couple weeks ago. So
Yes, sir.
I don't
Good.
know. I already forgot what we had talked about. So
Oh, there's at least a couple of them on my list so far. So
yeah, but yeah. So the candidate for what day we'll do it is the 30th, and the schedules depending, we will be uh, streaming then. But yeah, that is it for today's episode. As always, this is DK and Shade from TacoYaki Anime. Thank y'all for watching. Thanks for hanging out in chat. Thanks for supporting the channel in any way that you do. And we will see y'all next time.